You step outside on a warm afternoon, and you notice something peculiar about your backyard. The birds visit most of your yard freely and confidently. They eat at the feeder. They bathe in the bird bath. They rest on the fence. They explore the shrubs. But there is one specific section of your yard that the birds absolutely refuse to enter. They will fly over it. They will walk around it. They will avoid it completely, as if there is an invisible boundary line that they will not cross. The rest of your yard is full of bird activity. This one zone is completely empty of birds. You stand there trying to figure out what is wrong. To your human eyes, the zone looks perfectly normal. There is nothing obviously wrong. The grass looks fine. There are no dead animals. There are no visible hazards. There is no obvious reason the birds should avoid this zone. Yet they do. Consistently, deliberately, as if they know something about this zone that you do not know. And here's what is unsettling about this observation. The birds probably do know something. The birds are likely detecting something that your human senses cannot perceive. The birds are avoiding this zone for a legitimate reason. The birds are trying to tell you something important about your yard. And if you pay attention to where your birds refuse to go, you might discover a problem with your yard that you never would have noticed otherwise. The first thing you need to understand is that birds have sensory capabilities that far exceed human sensory capabilities in certain domains. You can see. Birds can see better than you can see. You can hear. Birds can hear frequencies you cannot hear. But more importantly, birds can smell things you cannot smell. Birds can detect chemical contamination at concentrations far below human detection ability. Birds can sense the presence of mold and fungal spores that you cannot perceive. Birds can detect the presence of parasites and disease vectors in soil that you cannot see. Birds are essentially walking around with sophisticated environmental monitoring systems built into their biology. When a bird avoids a specific zone of your yard, the bird is not being arbitrary or difficult. The bird is responding to information that it is detecting about that zone. The bird has assessed the zone and determined that something about it is hazardous to bird health. So what specific hazards are birds detecting when they avoid your yard zones? The first category of hazard is chemical contamination. Your yard might have received applications of fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, or other chemical treatments. These chemicals leave residues in the soil. Birds can detect these chemical residues even at concentrations too low for human olfactory detection. The chemicals might be genuinely hazardous to bird health, or the chemicals might have degraded to safe levels, but birds still detect the residue and avoid the zone out of caution. A bird that avoids a recently treated lawn is being wise. The bird is protecting itself from chemical exposure. A zone that was heavily treated months or years ago, but is still avoided by birds, might be telling you that persistent chemical contamination remains in the soil. The second category of hazard is biological contamination. Your yard might have areas where mold is growing, in poorly drained soil, in decomposing leaves, in decaying plant material. Mold produces spores and mycotoxins that birds can detect and avoid. A zone of your yard might have bacterial concentration from poor drainage or contaminated water pooling. A zone might have parasites concentrated in certain areas. Fungal growth might be happening underground in ways you cannot see. The birds detect this biological contamination and avoid the zone. When birds consistently avoid one area of your yard, but use other areas, the avoided zone likely has biological hazards that the birds have detected. The third category of hazard is predator presence. A zone of your yard might be where snakes den or hunt. A zone might be where a cat regularly prowls. A zone might be where a hawk has been observed hunting. Birds have incredible memories for dangerous locations. A bird will remember a location where it witnessed danger or where it heard warning calls from other birds. The bird will avoid that location for months or years, even if the danger is no longer present. Birds also have the ability to smell predators. They can detect the scent of a cat even if the cat is not currently in the yard. They can sense snake presence. The bird is using predator detection to avoid zones where danger is likely. The fourth category of hazard is what you might call environmental trauma or learned danger. A particular zone might be associated in bird memory with a dangerous event that occurred there. A bird saw another bird attacked in that zone. A bird heard predator warning calls from that zone. A bird experienced something frightening in that zone. The zone becomes marked in the bird's memory as dangerous. Other birds learn from that bird's behavior that the zone is dangerous. The zone becomes avoided by the entire local bird community. The danger might have passed months ago, but the zone remains avoided because of the trauma memory and community learning. Here is something remarkable about bird avoidance behavior. Birds are not just individually avoiding zones. Birds are communicating about dangerous zones to other birds. When one bird discovers that a zone is dangerous, it communicates this discovery to other birds through vocalizations and behavioral signals. Other birds in the community learn about the danger zone. The knowledge spreads. Over time, multiple bird species might avoid the same zone because they have learned from each other that the zone is dangerous. A zone that one bird identified as hazardous becomes avoided by the entire bird community through this information-sharing network. The emotional impact of noticing bird-avoided zones can be quite striking. You initially wonder if you have somehow failed at creating a bird-friendly yard. You wonder if there is something wrong with you or your yard management. You feel disappointed that birds refuse to use part of your yard. But the truth is much more positive. The birds are not rejecting you. The birds are providing you with valuable information. The birds are essentially saying to you, "Something is wrong with this zone. We have detected a hazard here. Pay attention." This is where bird avoidance becomes incredibly powerful as a tool for you. Birds are serving as your environmental quality monitors. Birds are conducting continuous assessment of your yard. Birds are detecting environmental problems that you might never notice otherwise. When birds avoid a zone, they are flagging that zone as having a problem. You now have the opportunity to investigate what that problem is. You can dig into the soil and check for contamination. You can look for signs of predators or past danger events. You can assess drainage and moisture conditions. You can check for mold or fungal growth. You can investigate the chemical history of that zone. The birds have essentially told you where to look for problems. Many homeowners never take this kind of action. They just accept that birds avoid certain zones and they move on. But the most engaged homeowners recognize bird avoidance as a signal worth investigating. These homeowners ask themselves, "What is my bird telling me about this zone? What hazard have the birds detected that I need to address?" This investigation can reveal real problems that impact yard health and human health as well. A zone that birds avoid due to chemical contamination might be contaminating your soil with persistent chemicals. A zone with poor drainage and mold growth might be creating disease vectors that could impact you. A zone where predators concentrate might eventually bring predators closer to your home. Investigating bird-avoided zones often reveals problems worth fixing. Let me tell you about something that happened when one homeowner paid attention to bird avoidance. The homeowner's yard had a corner zone where birds had never entered, despite the rest of the yard being full of birds. The homeowner decided to investigate. Upon close inspection, the homeowner discovered that the zone had been the location of an old garden bed where heavy pesticide had been applied years ago. Even though years had passed, the soil still contained persistent chemical residue. The homeowner had no idea about this problem. The birds knew. The birds detected it. The birds avoided the zone. The homeowner was able to remediate the soil based on bird-provided information. This story illustrates the remarkable value of paying attention to where birds refuse to go. The birds are not being arbitrary or difficult. The birds are communicating that something is wrong. When you finally remediate the problem that birds detected, something remarkable happens. The birds return to the previously avoided zone. The birds resume using the zone normally. The remediation is validated by the birds. The birds confirm through their returned use that the problem has been fixed. The process of investigating and remediating bird-avoided zones transforms your relationship with your yard. Your yard becomes a space where you are guided by bird intelligence. You are using birds as environmental monitoring partners. You are learning to read the information that birds are constantly providing through their behavior patterns. You are becoming more environmentally conscious and more aware of your yard's health through bird observation. Your yard management decisions become more informed by understanding what birds are detecting. The revelation that birds know something about your yard that you do not know should inspire respect and curiosity rather than frustration. Your birds are not criticizing your yard. Your birds are helping you understand your yard better. Your birds are providing information that can help you create a healthier, safer environment. The birds are serving as your yard's natural quality monitoring system. When you recognize this role, bird avoidance becomes not a mystery or a failure, but a valuable signal worth investigating. Your yard improves through this partnership of human action informed by bird intelligence. Your birds guide you toward problems that need attention. You respond by investigating and remediating. Your yard becomes healthier. Your birds return to previously avoided zones. Everyone benefits from this partnership of respecting bird intelligence and using bird-provided information to guide environmental management.